Welcome to the Anomic Show. Today we have with us Karl Mehta, the CEO and founder of EdCast. Karl, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you here in Malaysia and have you with us. Tell us a bit about yourself. I mean, you know, EdCast is an interesting proposition, and we'll go to EdCast in a bit, but tell us about your background. How did you get to become the CEO of one of the fastest growing organizations on earth?
Well, thank you for having me here. So it's great to be here in Malaysia. So my story, just in a quick, short summary, is that I went to the United States about 25 years back.
Okay. To study?
To study, and ended up founding 4 companies. So this is my 4th company in Silicon Valley.
Wow, okay.
In the past 24 years. And been driven mainly by trying to create some great innovations based on all the problems that I personally come across. And being an engineer, I like building stuff. And I've built stuff in and products in different industries, from semiconductor to telematics to the recent one was in electronic payment and wallet technology. And then this most recent one is in knowledge and learning, continuous learning. So the journey is all about seeing or feeling a problem.
Sure.
And then having that tremendous drive, that intense drive to now solve the problem, finding the right set of solution. In Silicon Valley, it's much more easier to do than probably in the other parts of the world, because there is a very good startup ecosystem.
Yep.
So I've been very fortunate and been a beneficiary of a lot of great entrepreneurs that I learned from. So I have a lot of good mentors. Having good mentors is very important in life.
And how did you land up there in the Silicon Valley? Was it you were studying at Silicon Valley itself?
Yeah, so I first went to Southern California for studying, and then I went the .com, and I moved up to the Valley to start my second company.
Okay.
Because Silicon Valley has a lot of great startup ecosystem.
Yeah. So your second company, your first company was started
in Southern California.
In Southern California,
in
also.
LA, yeah.
And then you sold it off, or you?
Yeah, so that company was taken over by another company which was in a larger semiconductor design space.
Sure.
Yeah, and then the second company was in telematics space called Mobile Area, that was also acquired by Wireless Matrix.
Wow.
Third company, PlaySpan, was acquired by Visa. And what you see today, the Visa checkout, which is a TV commercial, it's my technology that I built, helped them transform from a 50-year-old plastic card company into a multi-channel wallet.
Fantastic.
And then the most recent is EdCast.
And I mean, where do you get, we always say ideas, there are a million ideas, right?
Yes.
But how do you connect? I mean, the fact that how do you find these ideas? I mean, they just come about and then you execute them, or what's your process?
Well, we all get a lot of ideas, especially in the shower.
The best time.
The best time when you are getting a lot of good ideas. But I think ideas are 1%, and execution is 99%. The key thing is, how do you curate those ideas and filter them, and the whole validation process. So that is a way to validate, take an idea, think about do the market research. Do the technical validation of the solution, get the market validation from potential customers or partners, go to your mentors and ask them about it. So having that very open mindset is very critical. I think people do get caught into very much trying to guard and being secretive over their ideas, and I think that is really one of the biggest mistakes that people do. There's nothing like anyone can, nobody can steal your ideas, because even if people try to steal, it doesn't matter, because what really matters is execution. So I think whenever you have ideas, don't kill that idea and curiosity. It does take a lot of effort to convert ideas into an execution, an extraordinary amount of will and skill. And perseverance. So I think those are the 3 key things, and those are not easy. None of those are easy. I think probably the skill is something that you can acquire with effort put in, but the willpower to stay on the course and believe in yourself is very hard.
Sure.
99% of the time, when you have some new idea, people are going to shut down your ideas when you talk to them. They're going to tell you that it's not a good idea. or it's being done 100 times. But I think still, adapting that idea to something that is still very unique and that can solve a unique problem, and then once you believe in it, keeping that belief continuously going, and going through the failures, because obviously, taking an idea to an execution is going to go through thousands and thousands of failures. So keeping that perseverance, it becomes critical.
And you've built 3 businesses, sold it off, and now you're building a 4th one.
Yeah.
As you build these businesses, right? What's going in your mind? I mean, I'm sure there were challenges. I'm sure there are points where you wanted to give up.
Yep.
What keeps you going, and how do you have a firm idea that this is going to be the exit point, and I'm going to take it to sell it, or
well,
what
no,
are you thinking?
I never build for selling or exiting. That should never be the goal. In fact, it's the other way around. I never want to sell it. I want to build something that is very, very long term and that can become an institution for hundreds of years or thousands of years. But in the most previous business, in the payment business, we felt that Visa is such a great brand worldwide that our idea and what we had built would go actually much more further and faster if we partner with them, and our customers will be well served because they have a global capability. So sometimes it makes a lot more sense for a smaller organization to become a part of a bigger organization, because you get a lot more resources and you can serve your customers and your employees better. But otherwise, it's never a plan to do an exit, because you never build something which is built to last or permanent, because you want to build something very, very permanent. But over the time, you may get those opportunities, and if it is in the best interest of your customers and your employees, then you do it.
And what grounds you? I mean, not many people are successfully being able to build 3 great enterprises and sell it off, and now another great one in the making with EdCast. What's some secrets? I mean, that you think contributed to the success of your first 3 entities and now to your 4th one?
I think it all starts with the team, because no matter what the idea is going to keep changing over time, because you'll have to adapt the idea to what the market requirement is. You'll have to adapt the idea to some of the technological constraint is. But what is permanent or critical is the team. So if your starting team is a very solid team, you can see a company called Slack that has become so successful. They started in a gaming business, and when the games were not successful, they somehow figured out to build up messaging software, right? So what it tells you is that it's not about the idea, it's not about the market, it's really about the team, because that set of people were so smart, and more than smart, they were so driven that even when the failure comes in, they are willing to work with each other rather than just quit. The general behavior is that sometimes when the first failure comes in, people panic and they start looking for another job. And that's where the character comes out of people. The best and the smartest people at each point of failure, they don't panic. They actually, if they like each other, they believe in each other, they come even more closer together and say, okay, what else can we do? What can we do different? So I think the team is the most important aspect. The second thing is that having a shared sense of destination, which is saying that we want to build something extraordinary, and not like very specific, but something at a general level. So you don't need to know that I want to climb that particular hill, but you need to know a general sense of the mountains. And you say, well, I want to go in this direction. So whether it is messaging or enterprise software, then it's enterprise software. So in our case, let's say now it is, when I started EdCast, it was more about bringing a personalized experience to various knowledge and learning. It was very high level, extremely broad, right? Nothing very specific. Because we said, you know what, we're going to figure out the specifics as we go. You have to have that belief and that willingness to learn and to adapt and to iterate. But if you start very, very narrow, and then if that particular idea doesn't work, then you're going to get disappointed. And then, one disappointment after another, depending on how much perseverance you have, you fall apart.
Sure.
But if you start with a much more broader canvas, then you tune in, specifically where the gaps are in the market or where the opportunities are.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with Karl Mehta, the founder and CEO of EdCast. Welcome back to the Anomic Show. We are with Karl Mehta from EdCast, and EdCast is your latest and greatest contribution back with learning technology. Talk us through EdCast a little bit. Why EdCast? What's so amazing about it? What's the disruption that you are seeking in this learning space?
Sure. Well, so before starting EdCast, I was a venture capitalist. I was a partner at Menlo Ventures. And my typical day as a knowledge worker was I would meet 3 entrepreneurs in a day, morning, afternoon, evening. Somebody's pitching me a new business in robotics or new technology in genomics or big data, and making a decision on each one of those meetings, like a $5 to $10 million decision, Series A, Series B funding. And I had to learn a lot about each one of this technology on a daily basis, even though I have an engineering background and I've worked in technology for 24 or 25 years. So I started blocking my calendar 3 times a day for learning about each one of these meetings. So I realized that I need to be a continuous learner on a daily basis. And my form of learning was actually far more informal, what I would call, as opposed to taking the traditional classroom. Yep. Or a formal course. I would just learn from people whom I know. I would learn from reading just articles, videos from hundreds of different sites. And at some point, that daily routine became very unwieldy, because it's just difficult to go to 50 different places to go and find the content, even though there's Google search, but it's too difficult. So I realized that to solve this pain point that I had to build a software, which is, in this day and age, you have AI and machine learning available. So why not use AI to really understand who I am and what I'm interested in, like maybe robotics, maybe genomics. And the software will do all the hard work, the heavy lift,
the curation,
of going and finding the right content from not just 50 or 100 places that I used to go manually, but could go to even 50,000 different sources, because there are lots of great sources, and then curate that content and bring me just 3 to 5 pieces of content that I can digest on a short time that I have, or all of us have, on a daily basis. So that was the founding idea about EdCast. And for the lack of better metaphor, we said that, hey, this is something like a Netflix of knowledge and learning, just like Netflix is aggregating content from various studios. Yep. And then recommending you if you're really watching a lot more comedy movies. So that's basically the idea of EdCast.
Okay, and so you started that out. How did you take it to the next level? I mean, you started to get funding. You probably knew the system pretty well, but to grow at the pace, what were some of the challenges, and what was some of this thinking that was going on in your head in terms of building this business, building it fast and rolling it out in such speed that you've done in the last couple of years?
So the first thing was that once I had a good sense of my pain point and what the solution could be technically, was to go out and get the validation on the technology and the problem statement. So I went to Stanford across the street and met with the chief technology officer and a bunch of smart people over there, told them about the problem, told them about the solution, and they said that, yeah, this sounds very compelling, and there is nothing like this outside, because if somebody's already built it, then I don't want to do it. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. So as soon as I got that validation, the next thing was like calling on some of the smartest people that I know from the past 20 years, who could be the part of the core team. So building the team was critical. Sure. And then there were a bunch of people whom I go to as mentors, like Mitch Kapoor, who is the founder of Lotus Corporation in the Valley, and I went for his advice. And in Silicon Valley, there is this interesting network where they say that if you want advice, ask for money, and if you want money, ask for advice.
Okay.
So
I have to learn that.
So when you go to ask for advice, I ended up getting even money, which is interesting. So people, and that's how you get generally your first round of funding, which is a bunch of angel investors who really like about the space that you are in, or what the problem you're trying to solve, and they believe in you as an individual. And so, with that initial investors, with an initial team, with an initial idea and a problem statement, I think those are like the underpinnings of the 4 core things that has to come together to get a start,
Sure.
right?
Sure, and now you're expanding globally. I mean, your partnership here with Anomic and others. What's the thinking behind that to get as many? What's behind that big global push?
Well, our core mission statement is that we want, we want to enable individuals and organizations around the world to stay on the top of their game with knowledge and learning. So, our mission is to help everybody in the world. So, and the good thing about being digital first is that it is global from the day one.
Yep.
And the individuals that we are serving, they are all part of global organizations. So even when we got our very first customer in the United States, a large Fortune 500 company, they were already operating in over 120 countries. So we already had users worldwide. So now, we are seeing tremendous growth and inbound tremendous interest from not just companies worldwide, but also countries. So I was in India last week working with NASSCOM, who has already launched with EdCast 6-7 months back. The Prime Minister of India launched EdCast with NASSCOM. We call it Future Skills. And it's been very successful and growing. And we're getting a tremendous similar interest from many countries who wants to upskill the entire nation and entire workforce, which is becoming imperative in this fourth industrial revolution. Because if countries don't upskill their workforce, they're not going to be competitive.
Okay. And if you look back in this last couple of years in your journey at EdCast, right? Yeah. And some of the lessons you learned previously in previous organizations, what are some lessons or mistakes you made earlier on that you're avoiding here? Or what do you think are some of the mistakes you're making still and learning from?
Sure.
If you're willing to share some of those.
Yeah, well, I think the number one mistake that I do, or I think most entrepreneurs do, is the hiring mistakes, right? And I've done a ton of hiring mistakes in my past 20 years. We continue to keep doing, and we all pay the price for it. So if we don't set very high standards in hiring the people, with the right kind of talent and attitude and values and all of that, that can cost significantly to the company and to your growth. I would say that's probably number one. Number two is that is always in a technology business where we have to build the product and the features. Our biggest friction point is breadth versus depth. So what happens is that as we expand and grow, the market always sometimes wants us to go more broader, and we want to go more deeper. And that's where the friction comes in, and we have to find the trade-off and the right balance between the two. So that's probably the second big thing, and that leads to basically overall, I think the biggest enemy for all of us is focus, right? Because success comes from focus, and when you try to do many things, you're not doing any one thing really, really well.
Right.
And so I think that's probably the third lesson learned. To keep all those three things in perspective on a daily basis and see how we not repeat those mistakes.
Sure, very good. We'll take another break. We'll be right here for our third and final segment here on the Anomic Show. Welcome back to the Anomic Show. I'm speaking to Karl Mehta from EdCast, and every guest on our show is subject to the Thinkonomic Challenge, where we give you some quick questions and you have to answer them as fast as you can. So I'll start a little timer here and shoot as fast as you can, and we'll see how many we can get through. You go through more than 5, I think we'll give you a set for free, right? So you get a little gift. All right, and go. Would relationships be better without technology?
Some relationships.
Yeah.
Not all. Yeah.
Okay, so technology helps some.
Yeah.
Joy can be found with simple awareness. What is your joy?
Mindfulness.
Mm-hmm. And you practice that daily?
Every day.
Every day. What is wrong with the world today? How should we fix this? That's not an easy question.
I think we are getting all very more selfish as opposed to being more compassionate.
How do you fix that?
Well, you bring more compassion in the world through the awareness, self-awareness and mindfulness practices.
Okay, and you're doing that, with EdCast. Have you done anything lately that is worth remembering?
Expressing thankfulness and gratitude to more people.
And that is worth remembering, huh? Absolutely. Now, if you had a chance to empower a certain community, which one would it be?
I'm always very passionate about the bottom of the pyramid. So the 2.5, 3 billion people who still live under $1 a day. That's a community to go after.
And we just time for the last one. Do internet search engines like Google and Yahoo truly empower people?
Well, yes and no. I mean, if you know what you want to do, then partially yes. But if you don't know, then it really doesn't help. So you need then the Netflix of learning to bring you
absolutely
what you need.
so you passed the Thinkonomic challenge. Congratulations, and we'll give you a set right after the show.
Great.
Speaking about EdCast again, right? How does it truly empower HR folks? I mean, talk us through the principles behind why EdCast is so powerful.
Sure. Well, so as an organization, the foundation of any great high-performing organization is the culture that you build. And HR leaders, I think they're one of the big priorities is to ensure that they're building a great culture. And what we do with EdCast is to enable this HR and L&D organizations to create a culture of curiosity, which is the fundamental now, especially in the fourth industrial revolution. Because if your people are not having, if they don't have curiosity, they're not going to continue to learn. And if they're not continuously learning, then they're going to be obsoleted very, very fast. Sure. And then the chances of your organization getting disrupted just exponentially increases. So the bedrock of everything is a culture of curiosity. And so we work with great HR leaders and L&D leaders to help them, enable them to create that culture with EdCast, because what EdCast does is through that personalized access to the right content at the right time from the right people, creates that kind of curiosity.
Right. Instill some sparks of
curiosity, yeah.
And so on.
And then it starts with curiosity, but then it starts building on, creating a culture of continuous learning, becoming a lifelong learner, and then over the time of the journey, most important thing is to continuously upskill yourself so that whatever you want to become, let's say I want to become a data scientist, or I want to become a good people manager, I can become that as I keep doing that continuous form of micro and macro learning journeys.
Sure. Now, if you were to advise a group of CEOs, say, speaking at a conference with 500 CEOs, and you were to give one nugget of wisdom, just one big advice that has helped you in your own life and your own journey, what sort of advice would you impart to these business leaders?
I think the key thing is having a very compelling mission. Because CEOs have to set the vision and a very compelling mission, because that's what people are coming to work to for you or for your company. And if you don't have a very inspiring vision, if you don't have a very compelling mission, and you as a CEO has to do a great job at continuously communicating that, and not just communicating but also walk the talk. Because people don't just listen or hear; they also see how the leadership is walking the talk on the vision and the mission. And if you take care of that, then I think the rest of the things is just details that will take care of itself.
Sure. And if you go down a level to the HR leaders, we talk about culture as being one big component, right? What sort of advice in light of this VUCA world, in light of all the changes that are happening, right? What's important for HR to think about?
Well, HR is great at HR, and that's why they are in those great roles. Is that HR professionals will have to become very good at technology too. So until now, they relied on some other IT department or some other tech person. But and it's not just for HR. I think it's everybody who is in non-tech role will have to become savvy at technology and will have to become really good at technology, because everything in the world is becoming technology enabled, and every business is becoming a technology business first. So HR folks, as they become more and more technology driven, they'll be very successful.
Okay. And my final question as we close out the show, a lot of young people are looking and watching this interview and say, I want to be like Karl. I want to start businesses. I want to be successful. I want to become, this leader that you've morphed into, right? So if you were to advise these young folks who are starting out in life, maybe just finishing university or coming out into the working world, right? What sort of advice would you give to these young people, in terms of staying the course, in terms of being able to become like you, at some point in time?
Well, if you're starting out in your career from college, I would say that the best place that you can learn would be to go work at a real startup, because that's where you're going to get a 360 degrees view of, you'll see how the founder and a very small team is going through every single challenge. And that's the best place to learn. If you don't chase prestigious jobs at big brand name companies, I have nothing against them. They're all great companies and they're my customers too. But as you're starting out, you're gonna be doing one little job in a pretty big machinery. So you'll never understand the full machinery that goes into taking an idea to a full execution.
Right.
So spending 2, 3, 4 years, 5 years at a startup, just being there, feeling the energy, learning, seeing, and you will be thrown multiple jobs. You'll not be confined to one specific thing, then you'll have to wear multiple hats every day. I think that will build you up into a very, very solid person that someday in life, if you feel like venturing out and building your own company, you would have all the necessary grounding. That's better than doing any MBA. A 3 to 5 year at a real startup is better than an MBA.
Very good. Karl, thank you so much for your time. We've been absolute pleasure speaking to you here. We're speaking to Karl Mehta from EdCast here on the Anomic Show.